essentially I create music. Music is like the tools, like a platform that I have, which I can then attempt to create a lifestyle, a different way of living. So I don't know, for younger people these days, because you kind of get the feeling that the older people have it all figured out, like your parents and your uncles and how they're living lives and being comfortable in where they are at the stage of their lives. They kind of have it figured out. But younger people these days, we kind of sometimes struggle with identity crisis. So I have found for myself the best way to live my life is if I know who I am in Jesus. Obviously, I'm a Christian, and everything I do is Christian based, is faith based. So even the music I create has core Christian values in it, and that helps me to live a lifestyle that's different. Live a lifestyle that's actually fruitful, that you can look back and say, okay, cool. I think even though there are challenges right now, I've got something to look forward to. So the music is my main tool to kind of get that point across. But then you can just, I can just meet you, for example, and just encourage you about it. That's another thing I do, just encouraging people and letting them know that, it's gonna be fine, it's okay. There is a greater, standard of living, that can be achieved, and not just settling for less. So that's essentially what Called Out is about. You were called out to be different, called out to live a different lifestyle than the world tells us to live. So obviously growing up in a Christian like background, in a Christian family, my dad's a preacher, and I was kind of in and out of it. So I understood what going to church meant. I had to go to church as a child. We had to do all these things. We had to go to Sunday school. I was in the choir. I started playing the piano, but I felt I didn't really understand, you know, the gospel of my faith. I didn't understand the core belief of my faith. I was just doing it because I had to do it. So recently, I just had a light bulb moment where I realized, I needed to really understand what I wanted to do with my life. Life got to a point for me where I felt like I was just living, I was just existing. Like I was just waking up, going back to bed, and it had no substance for me. I just felt like I wasn't worth anything. So I just sought different routes of finding that self-worth. And the greatest way that I found, like I was talking about identity just a minute ago, was when I started praying more, started reading my Bible more, started taking my faith a lot more seriously, and I just found out it just made a lot of things easier, and it put life in a perspective, and I started to see life in a different way than I used to, and seeing life in that way, I started becoming happier. So that's what made me, say, okay, cool, if this works for me, and I kind of see why it works with so many other people as well. So that's why, as well, because it's worked for me, I feel the need to spread it out to other people and say, hey, look, this is a solution. If you see someone who's if you see someone in a burning house, you're gonna say, hey, get out of there, because you know that if they stay in that house, they're gonna die and burn out. But if you have a solution, and I feel like with the gospel of Jesus Christ, it is a solution. And so I'm just trying to say, look, this is the good news. Here it is, and I'm presenting it in music, in lifestyle, in fashion, in every way that I can. So you have people filling their lives with things that are kind of very short term. It could be, because I feel in every human being, because we were created by God, and this is just this is my faith, right? Because we were created by God, there is a God-shaped void in everyone's lives, and until that void is filled by God and filled by Jesus Christ, there's always going to be a certain emptiness. And the fact that people try to fill that void that only God can fill with other things, with like maybe relationships, with drugs, with sexual addiction, any other thing that people feel can replace that hole, it just doesn't work, because it's not God. It's not what's meant to be there, if that makes sense. So there is a void that only God can fill, and the fact that The main problem is the fact that we just run away from what the truth is. And the further away from the truth we get, the more, the deeper into trouble we get. That's why you hear so many situations of people doing inhumane things and, killing each other and the slaughter and all that stuff that's going on, because people just running further away from the truth, and it's just getting deeper and deeper into trouble, and it's getting worse by the day actually. What is acceptable now would have been forbidden about maybe 20, 30 years ago, and it just shows you how the state of the world is right now, because we're just deviating further and further away from the truth. I always say you can't know someone if you haven't spent time with them. A lot of people don't pursue after God. They don't actually want to know who he is, but they claim to know who he is. Maybe because they've heard things, or they've heard other people's stories and testimonies. I guess the best way for people to really, and this is something I always pray for, is that everyone gets to encounter God the way I have, and so everyone gets to experience what I've experienced, because it's life changing. It's There's a song called Amazing Grace, and it says, a line of it was, I was blind, but now I see. There is such a beautiful transformation of your eyes being open to see what you've been blind to see for so long. And experiencing God for myself made me see the world the way he sees it. So I started to see sin for what it really is. I started to see even little things like, going out to where I shouldn't go, or saying things I shouldn't say, or maybe like cussing or swearing, little things like that, and loving your neighbors and showing love for people you don't even know. There's just there's a whole lifestyle that comes with your eyes being open to who God is, and that can only happen if you experience him. So people saying to me, for example, oh, I know who your God is, but I just I don't see the same thing that you see. I don't have the same vibe that you have. Trust me, you actually need to want to know more. Like if you don't want to know who the God I serve is, then you really won't experience him. And this goes out to even people who are Christians or who do believe in God. Some people know of him, but not a lot of people do know who he is. It's kind of like any physical friendships you can have. Like I can say I know you, like you're my bro, or I can know of you. Like there was a certain time I knew of you, but now I can say I know you. And that's only come about because I've spent time, I've consciously taken time out to be like, okay, what's this guy really about? And we've built a relationship like that. So until people make that conscious decision of saying, okay, I want to know God for myself. Yeah, and that's a great question you actually asked as well, because that's the base of what I do. It's kind of getting people to, take that step. Because if you haven't taken that step, the whole lifestyle that I'm talking about really won't make sense. People won't really understand why you live the way you live, why you pray all the time, why you always, call on the name of Jesus. People won't really understand why you're always happy, because they don't understand the God you serve. But nowadays, because I know the truth, and the truth is taking me through this freedom process where I'm beginning to understand that, yes, victory is possible, victory is mine. And I'm fighting back differently. I'm fighting back with the word of God, because through reading the Bible, you can learn the promises that God has said about you. So whereas before I felt worthless, I felt like I was a low life, I felt disgusting, after maybe committing different acts. But nowadays I just feel I am loved, I am blessed, I am forgiven, and Jesus really died for me, and Jesus has won this battle. So I'm fighting from a place. I was watching a video by a guy called Earl Blackman on Twitter, and he was saying we should fight from a place of victory. Fight with the mindset that you have won. And it's just beautiful, and that's what I'm doing these days, and I'm applying it to different parts of my life. Everything I'm going through, whether it might be financial difficulty, whether it might be university, how deep uni gets these days, I'm fighting from a place of victory. So that has been the biggest transition in my life. Pretty much going from someone who was severely addicted, and it shifted my focus as well, because whereas before I used to concentrate on the sin and the difficulty, now I just solely focus on Jesus. because as the word says, he's the author and finisher of my faith. So I'm keeping my eyes on him, and through different testimonies that people have told me about my life, I have felt like a totally changed person, a different person. If anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. Old things are passed away and everything has become new. So that newness has just been felt in so many ways, so many ways. And yeah, yeah, man. So the transformation process, it does take a long time. And I do feel that God will keep working on us, until we, by his grace, get into the gates of heaven. But while I'm on earth, I'm just going to keep striving. And we're called to be holy, not perfect. So strive to be holy like he is holy. That transparency as well. Because I feel a lot of the time, as a Christian artist, or as someone who does Christian music, there's a perception that people want you to just be this perfect person. Oh, he obviously has a strong relationship with God. Yeah, he doesn't fall, he doesn't do this. And sometimes the Christian artists sort of feel under pressure to live that way. And it almost becomes, oh, I need to live this way because of the way people see me. Yeah, but for me, because of the way I started music, and I, s- I really started the music before I discovered who I was in Jesus Christ. So for me, I'm always just open and transparent about it. And even my first song, Working on Me, was about that transition process, about that whole coming out of darkness into the light and just being a changed person and allowing God to really work inside of me. Because the song Working on Me is a continuous process. Because he's still doing it now. I think 7 months since I first released the song, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm loving the process of being transparent. At the same time, just being able to help people through music, but also letting them know that I am no different from everyone else. It's just solely the grace of God that that sustains me. There's like, imagine a diagram, and there's a stick man in the middle, and there's like a huge circle around the stick man. So the circle represents God, and the stick man is everyone else. So God becomes like that filter around our lives. So if we make a conscious decision to allow ourselves to be secure in God, anything else negative that wants to come in has to first go through God. And everything that wants to go out has to first go through God. So if we're secure in Jesus Christ and he is secure in us, I guess in terms of struggles and maybe sin, for example, it becomes easier to fight back because we are so focused and we're so secure in Jesus Christ that all we want to do is please him because we love him so much. So with people going through any sin, for example, people going through sin, I would say the best thing to do is kind of focus on Jesus Christ. With people going through difficulty, maybe hardships or heartbreak or anything like that, for difficulties and maybe it might be finances, there is a phase that sometimes we go through, and it's actually for our benefit. Sometimes it's just to make us stronger people, sometimes just to make us better people, to make us overcomers. And the fact remains is God has a script of our lives, and every day is kind of like a scene in the whole play, and he's written everything out. So all we need to do is just believe him and trust that he has a plan for us. The word says he has plans of good, not of evil, to give us an expected end, to give us a better future, to give us the hope of a brighter future. So whilst we might be going through difficulties, and I know it's really hard to see, especially when there's difficulties all around, but that's where your faith comes in. That's where your trust comes in, your trust in God. Just trust and believe that he has you secure in his hands, and it will make the journey through the difficulty easier because you have something to look forward to. Yeah, any other trials as well, just believe that God has you, man. Yeah, so I started playing the piano when I was 7 years old. Like, my dad bought a keyboard for our church, but because it was at our house, so no one could actually play the keyboard. And I just sat in front of the piano for the first time, and I started playing songs. And you think of people who have never played the piano before, it's kind of surreal to just know what you're doing. But I just had an understanding of what I should do and where I should go and what I should press. And obviously through practice, and I would literally sit 8 hours a day, practicing in front of the keyboard, and literally for about 8 years. Imagine doing 8 hours a day, just every single day playing the keyboard. And I just developed a love and passion for it. And then the finance came about because sometimes in life you go through phases where you feel you need to have a plan, just to have a plan B for yourself. So music is obviously something I do want to do. I really want to do music full time and kind of focus on ministry. But my university degree has definitely helped me to see different sides to myself, and it's challenged me as well. And obviously, I never back down from challenges. Definitely, because I grew up in Nigeria for 12 years, and the music in Nigeria is extremely. It's just Afro beats. I mean, the original Afro beats from the 70s and 80s. That's grew up listening to that maybe on the streets. My parents would always play Igbo Christian music, Igbo cultural, because I'm Igbo, Igbo cultural music, and obviously Christian music as well. So I grew up listening to those sounds, and they just stuck in my subconscious, memory. And I realized when I make music, sometimes it takes me back there. And because I've lived in two countries now for the longest time, it's sort of like a fusion of those two musical genres. So in the UK, you have pop music, which dominates the charts. Like, if it's not pop music, it's nothing. And I obviously take the time out to study other forms of music. There's something called I discovered it like 2 weeks ago, future bass or something like that. It's just such a unique genre, and the more you listen to different styles of music, the better musician you get. So obviously, you make music, like you probably would know what I'm talking about. Say if I took a trip to China, for example, and I took my kit with me, I just know for a fact the music I will be making after staying there for maybe a couple months would be totally different. It just exposes you to so many ways, and music is such a powerful thing. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and it connects so many people together. So the more music you listen to, you have an incredible ability to connect more people, because more people listen to, the broader range of music you listen to, more people can connect to it. So I do feel, especially living in Canterbury as well, which has been another cultural change, I would say, because Canterbury's quite quiet and quite different. The vibe and the atmosphere you get from living in Canterbury is different from maybe staying a night in London or living in Basingstoke. It's just wherever you are, you kind of get a vibe of the atmosphere as well, and couple that with the music you have heard in your life. Yeah, it definitely has an influence. Working on me, the first song I did, there's a song by an artist called Shaka, who I actually really admire. I just love his musical style, and he had a song called Just Want to See You. And I remember the first time I heard that Just Want to See You track, I was like, this is amazing. I want to make a song exactly like that. So Working on Me is my interpretation of Shaka's Just Want to See You, and it just shows how loads of artists can influence you. Kurt Franklin obviously really inspires me as well. So, and so does Marley Music. So listening to those guys as well, and how they infuse different styles to their music, and how I've infused different styles to my music, it's just a whole bunch of fusions. So another reason why I don't really like to put a genre on the music I do, because honestly, if I want to make a funk track tomorrow, as long as it has the core values of what I believe in and my faith, I'm gonna make it.